Welcome to another episode of Game Boy Roulette, where we take a look at randomly chosen games from the Game Boy library. Spider-Man 2. Uh-oh. On one hand, it's always fun when I roll a game that I actually owned as a kid and put a lot of time into. But on the other hand, I can safely say all that time was wasted. But let's back up. Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man had plenty of video games based on him over the years, and for good reason. Web swinging, fighting enemies with hand-to-hand combat, actually being vulnerable unlike some superheroes I could mention. Spider-Man is ripe for video game adaptation, and he had a decent track record in those games too. Maybe not as high as Batman, but between the Sony games, Spider-Man 2 for PS2, and the actually rather enjoyable Maximum Carnage for the Genesis, there's a good crop of games that represent the web slinger well. Unfortunately, this isn't one of them. Published by LJN and developed by Bits Studios, the company also behind the god-awful Last Action Hero for Game Boy, this was one of the few superhero games I had as a kid, and man did it sour me on superhero games. I remember it being awkward to control, with basically no indication on how to make progress, resulting in it being a huge mess. But that was when I was a stupid child, who also thought Metroid 2 was stupid. So there's still some hope that maybe the game has aged better than I remember it. Of course, there's not much hope. I do remember trying to revisit it a few times over the years, and it never got any better. You know what drew me to this game? One word. Carnage. And with him fighting Spidey on the box art, I had to get it because, oh my god, it's Carnage! Come to think of it though, who is Carnage? Is he a human? Is he a mutated symbiote? I really should figure out what the hell he is one of these days. So let's reluctantly swing into this one. Doing whatever a spider can, it's Spider-Man 2. Do I have to? This game is really not good. Decent title screen though, The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Music is not bad either. I'll give the game credit. It's just when we get to the gameplay, things are gonna go badly. One thing I do like is the game has these cool comic book cutscenes. Right, so the plot is Spider-Man has been framed. I love the way that's shaking. Hobgoblin! So. Oh god, it's already as awkwardly controlling as I remember. Okay, so. B to jump. A to punch. Hold A to shoot a web to swing. Crouch and hit A to shoot a web ball. If you jump and hold A, you do a jump kick. If you double tap, sometimes you get a double jump. If you're wondering what all those different meters are at the bottom of the screen, so am I! Everyone wants to kill you. Punch them. Punching incredibly delayed. Very difficult to get hit. To hit them without getting hit. I remember the general order you have to do things. Let's go. Here we go. Down the hole. Now I have 4 of something. I think lives. Grab the crowbar. Select lets you choose what item you have in hand. Next to that is how much web you have left. You actually have limited web. Then there's... Oh, I can show this off. Okay, so I know what some of them are anyway. Spidey sense. In this case, it tells it if you touch this fence, you die. Okay, so what we have to do, and you are not going to believe me. So what we have to do is use the crowbar to get into a sealed building. To get something? I forget what's actually in there. But you essentially have to take down Hobgoblin and commandeer his ship. Oh my god, the jumping. To get out of this area. You know what? I'm having a thought right now. The game is almost like a point-and-click adventure, but with platforming. Because it's all find the item to use here, to use over there, to use here. Gotcha. Now take down Hobgoblin. And punch him. Come on. What? Okay, let's try the jumping kick then. Nope, not working. What? What? I broke him. He is extremely difficult to fight because he's basically programmed to just chase you and throw bombs. And duck. There we go. Got the key. No web. Up here, a heart and the oil can. Man, I put so many hours into this game and only got to, like, part 2. There's really not that much fun to be had. The controls are so awkward. The gameplay is so confusing. Okay, we can use the crowbar to get in here. I think there's web down here. Yeah. All right, we've refilled our web. But yeah, I guess I never thought about it until just now. It is a point-and-click game. Just with walking instead of pointing, and punching instead of clicking. And man, it is just as bad as I remember it. Although this is kind of amazing. Woohoo! We also grabbed a key card earlier. We need that for later. See ya. Alright. Also, if you don't go high enough going over the fence, you fall into it and insta-die. One of these is what you use the key card on. It's not this one. But as far as I remember, it all culminates in a fight with Mysterio, which I never even got close to. I always would give up after about 30 minutes because I'd never make progress. Is it in here? Yes. There should be, yep, cutscene. Robot Spideys. You can tell by that image, right? So, a character shows up. I don't know who it is. Something tells me Lizard knows who's behind this. So now the goal is to find Lizard, but we need to get the antidote. This is the greatest image I've ever seen, though. So this is extra weird. You have to go to these consoles, stand in front of them, wait for the crosshairs to come, and then blow them up. And you have to do that 4 times to get the antidote. See, I need to make it clear. I know how to do this stuff only because I put so many hours into this game. The game is terrible at explaining anything to you. By the way, if you're wondering what's shooting at me, again, so am I. This is like the ultimate in write to Nintendo Power and beg them to tell you what to do game. You know, I can respect what they tried to do. They wanted to make this an adventure where you're doing a lot of exploration to figure out what's going on, to find items, to make progress. But it just did not work. So yeah, now you give this to Lizard, and then he gets you a way to get into the carnival, and then from there I don't remember, and frankly I don't care. This is not a good game. It never was when I was a kid. Oh hey, Lizard. And it continues to not be a very good game. I don't know. Go play Maximum Carnage. That game ruled. Yup, still sucks. This is one of those games that even as a kid trying to like everything I played, I knew was awful. But I will give the game this, it certainly wasn't for a lack of trying, because going back, the game does have some ambition. They really tried to make a mix of a platformer action game and an adventure game, slowly going through the stages and discovering items to make progress. But none of the aspects worked well at all. The combat is boring and only semi-functional, the movement is sluggish and awkward, and with very little to guide you in confusing objectives, it all adds up to the kind of messy, boring game that you give up on after just 10 minutes of playing. But that brings us to another huge issue of the game, one that I didn't bring up while playing. The game is only 20 minutes long. That's right, what you saw of my playthrough was half of the game, if not more, and 2 of those last 10 minutes involve standing still on a roller coaster. It's one of those games that cranks the difficulty high to make up for short runtime, but instead of difficulty, they just made everything more obtuse. I think the game would have been better if it had actually been a point-and-click game. Remove all the combat and action, and have it be a more thoughtful puzzle-solving game. Instead, we're left with a horrible mishmash of genres that brings out the worst in every one of them. This game was bad when I was a kid, it's bad now, and will be bad sometime in the future as well. There are plenty of Spider-Man games to choose from out there. Make sure you don't choose this one. Still though, Spider-Man on the Hobgoblin Flyer is pretty wonderful. Look at him go! And that's all for another episode of Game Boy Roulette. Make sure to like the video, comment, and subscribe to follow the series as we continue to dig through the Game Boy vault. I'm Brian J, and I'll see you next time.